we've already seen the beginning of a massive, burgeoning, flourishing, liberal and left-wing rise on YouTube. I mean, you're literally seeing the Midas Touch guys ended up ousting Joe Rogan as the #1 podcast in the country, right? And by the way, that could have been TYT. Like TYT, if they were just the same as they were in 2017, that could have been them. They could have been the one with the #1 podcast in the world right now. But now, they fell down this sort of enlightened centrist pipeline, and there's zero appetite for enlightened centrism, zero appetite for enlightened centrism right now.
Yeah, there really is zero appetite for that. Kyle Kulinski is absolutely right. This is absolutely the coming up to the actual episode that we are going to be talking about. But let me just tell you, Kyle Kulinski is hitting it right on the money. People do not want any. When I tell you people are going either extremely far right or extremely far left, if those words mean anything, they're either doing that or they're politically homeless and they're just like, I'm just going to watch how this goes and figure out what I can do for my family and wake up people, along the way. That's pretty much my thought process and the way that I operate these days. And I want to thank everybody who's watching. Please don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button and the notification bell. And so right now, what we have here is Kyle Kulinski basically breaking down the hypocrisy, the farce, the lies, everything that's going on with with TYT. I don't know what's up with TYT. It's getting really bad for them. It's all over the place. It is. Anyway, without further ado, let's go ahead and get into the clip.
Rightfully so, by the way. And there's zero appetite for the fake high IQ conservative arguments like Jordan Peterson and Ben Shapiro. And like I said, Rogan is getting washed. The future is Asmund Golden. The future is Nick Fuentes. But more importantly, the real future is liberal and left-wing criticism of Trump, because those are the people with all the energy right now. We have all the vibes on our side. We have all the movement on our side. When people tune in, they're like, oh, what did this asshole do now? What the fuck is going on? Like every day it's something new, and people can't look away from the train crash that is this regime.
The big vanguard will be there, sir.
The midterms are obviously coming up, and there are competing philosophies about the correct way for progressives and left-wingers to brand themselves. Recently, your Justice Democrats co-founder, Cenk Uygur, came out and basically relaunched his Rebellion PAC as like a new Justice Democrats, but instead of progressivism, they're going with the populism label, and apparently Ro Khanna is involved with that. Supposedly Richard Ojeda is on board, although it's not 100% clear. Either way, there are a lot of different competing ideas about what is the correct issues, what's the correct brand for progressives and left-wing candidates to lean into going into the midterms and going into 2028. What do you think is the best of these options? What do you think about Rebellion PAC, and how do you think that progressives should kind of meet American voters to win them over?
I think the answer is both maximum leftist and maximum liberal. So I think we should all reckon with the fact that the resistance liberals were 100% with their critiques on Trump. And we should also reckon with the fact that it's Bernie Sanders and AOC and those people that have the correct mindset in terms of what agenda we should push for, that the billionaires are the problem. And I think to narrow your scope to only economic issues in this moment is absurd, because it's not.
So, all right, I try to stop him at the appropriate moment, but it just never works out. But anyway, let me just say this real quick. Look, okay. AOC and Bernie are both fake. They're all fake, though. See, this is what I mean about this country. This is why I'm just at the point where I'm like, we're not a sovereign nation, and like, it is what it is. And I hope more people wake up to this so that, we could peacefully dismantle certain things. Peacefully, we can read books about it. We can hold hands and sing Kumbaya and dismantle things. Okay, I don't know how else I can make this sound like I'm not a threat. Okay, like I'm not. I'm going to show you a little bit of Anna and her new show. I'll let Kyle talk a little bit more. But the thing about the liberals is that AOC and Bernie, they still will have us out here in forever wars. They speak against the wars, but then they sign the paperwork still for us to go to war. That's what they do, or to give money to certain countries that are committing certain genocide, right? I've had it, bro. Like, I've had it. Like, everybody's taking money from, different lobbyists and everything. And so the agendas of the lobbyists are what get taken care of and not anything for the American people. I am not complaining. Praise God. My life is well. So I don't want to sound like I'm a complainer. I'm not. I have a great family. Like, I could just move on and pretend like none of this is happening, but I can't help but to speak about it. So I just think that the American people just never get a fair shot in their own country. So this notion of those are the voices. Like, nah, man, they brought out too, bro. They brought out.
It's not an economic issue. What's happening with innocent people being rounded up and shipped to a slave labor gulag in El Salvador? That's not an economic issue. That's a constitutional issue. That's a rights issue. You have 4-year-olds with cancer being Americans, by the way, being deported. You got every day we get a new horror story about ICE assaulting a woman or stealing a baby. One guy they arrested and his kids were in the car at the gas station. They arrested the guy and just left the kids in the car sitting there by themselves, right? None of that has anything to do with economics. There's not a single thing about economics in there, but it's something we should absolutely be just 100% all in.
Right. And so the thing is that they do that kind of stuff that way just to kind of, like give you something to talk about. Look, I do believe that illegals should be deported. I don't believe that it should be done this way. There's two sides of the story. Number one is being done in an egregious manner where it's like you can't even defend it now. And number two, they're not even deporting enough. They're lying to their own base. Like, yeah, we're deporting all these people. No, you're not. So it's just lies all around. That's the part that I'm just over.
License, and if you try to get it changed, you're committing fraud by saying I'm a trans person, so now I transitioned to male, but I was born female. They say that's fraudulent if you're trans, so we're going to give you a prison sentence for that. This is the sort of stuff that we're seeing. So on every single...
Yeah, that's not my biggest issue. I just want to see if they get to what he was saying about Cenk and...
I literally haven't seen a single thing they've done that's been good. In the first term, at least you had every now and then something would happen. He pardoned Alice Johnson. He did the First Step Act. He banned bump stocks for guns. I'm willing to give credit where credit is due. But the problem is where we are right now, there's no credit to give. I've never seen such a horror show. And so...
That's true.
There's no reason to limit yourself and say, oh, we're only going to focus on these certain issues. Like, no, I'm going to fight them on literally every single fucking thing that they do because they're wrong on absolutely everything. And then on top of that, I will reframe the narrative and say the problem isn't immigrants, the problem isn't trans people, the problem are the billionaires and the corruption. And we're gonna tax the shit out of them and we're gonna redistribute the wealth.
Why don't we just take out the corruption? If you are a billionaire, we'll say it's billionaires for the sake of the show, and you don't have America first at hand, then it's not about just outright taxing all billionaires. I don't hate billionaires here, but I live in America, dog. I still believe that I can be a billionaire if I want to be. So, and this is the first generation American speaking to you. That's the thing about immigration too. My father came here for a long time ago. He's more of an American than he is a Haitian at this point. But he knew that there was way more economic opportunities to be an entrepreneur. And if he could have made it to $1 billion, he would have went to $1 billion, okay? Like he did. He's like, this is America, bro. Like everybody could be rich, dog. Like, so we're not even about to do the whole thing where it's like, oh, all the billionaires are a problem. Like, nah, dog. If I was a billionaire, I mean, like y'all would, man, you know what I would do? I would fund, I definitely would have a media company and fund true Americans, American-loving Americans. You don't have to just be, like a certain kind of, I'd rather you not even be in a party line, to be honest. I just want Americans who love Americans, want to have a real discussion about America. I would fund a media company that did that. You know what I mean? To influence the masses in a positive way with true facts and discussion. That said, I went too far, and I'm not understanding how come he's still not about Cenk.
That's why you see people like J.B. Pritzker randomly. Now he's out there saying Republicans shouldn't know a moment of peace and we should fight them on every single issue. You could list the Jasmine Crocs and the Maxwell Frost, and there's Tim Walz. There's a certain attitude that people have now, which is like a sort of fuck you attitude. Like Tim Walz bragging about the Elon stock going down and saying, I love looking at the Tesla stock going down, and then Republicans concern trolling over it. That's the sort of fight that we need. We need people to not be afraid to be controversial, not be afraid to take a bold stand, not be afraid to fight them on fucking everything.
He doesn't really believe what he's saying because, You know, it's funny because Nick Fuentes' name was brought up, and everybody thinks that, oh, he's anti-Semitic, he's anti-Semitic. He's not afraid to be controversial, and he does actually talk about Israel, but he's not allowed to be part of the conversation. So I think everybody is fake. I'm sorry. I just like I do. And he's not getting the chank. What is going on?
I can give you a dozen examples. You've been in this game a long time. You've seen it yourself. I'll take Jimmy Dore, for example, right? You find the guy who never wants to do anything but criticize progressives, right? And then slowly but surely, it's like, okay, all my audience wants me to shit on progressives constantly. Oh, now I'm going to flirt with MAGA. Oh, I'm going to kind of allude to nice things till finally you're just all the way in the MAGA tank, right? It's one of the reasons why, the historical red-brown alliance doesn't...
All right, let's kind of see.
And all of their content is just like, look, Trump's a fucking asshole. Look at this. Look at the asshole shit he did, right? And by the way, that could have been TYT. Like TYT, if they were just the same as they were in 2017, that could have been them. They could have been the one with the number one podcast in the world right now. But now, they fell down this sort of enlightened centrist pipeline, and there's zero appetite for enlightened centrism, zero appetite for enlightened centrism right now, rightfully so, by the way, and there's zero appetite for the fake high IQ conservative arguments like Jordan Peterson and Ben Shapiro. And like I said, Rogan is getting washed. The future is Asmongold, and the future is Nick Fuentes. But more importantly, the real future is liberal and left-wing criticism of Trump, because those are the...
Yeah, they got scared when he said that name. It's true. People want to hear the God's honest truth. They want to hear you say how you feel. They want to hear you go off. So anyhow, so this is about that stupid, matter of fact, hold on. I'll let a little bit.
FBI director is our chief law enforcement officer.
I mean, this guy is either drunk or he's clearly got TDS at the highest levels, because Trump handed his to him.
Joining me is Ana Kasparian, host of the Young Turks, and her take. She's a fearless voice who cuts through media spin and isn't afraid to call out the performative politics on both sides. Ana, I mean, wow, what do you think? Is this a death threat or is it just douchey?
I think he was very likely trying to troll. I don't think he meant to put out a death threat, but it was in poor taste. It was stupid. I just, what are you doing? What are you doing? And more importantly, all of the various characters from like the 2016 election cycle and, even within the Trump administration and during the Trump administration, like when are these people who are no longer in positions of power gonna just go away?
So I watched this clip and I'll play a little bit more for the next episode that I do. And Ana just basically two sides of the whole situation. She's like, well, both people act bad. Both people. This is all right, but we're talking about this. And MAGA has completely lost their mind. They've gotten delusional. Okay, the guy puts 86-47 on the thing. Now they want him to go to jail. These precedents that are being set that now if you use numbers, you could be, talked to. Now imagine I put 1488, right? And let's just say for a second that I did, So somebody going to show up at my door? These are the kind of precedents that are being set. You cannot, this is America. If you want it to be, a dictator country, like if you want it to be North Korea, which by the way, that's not me ishing on North Korea, because don't worry, they still got North Korea in their eyes to go there and try to dismantle that country too. And I don't want to be a part of any of this. Then say that we're in a dictatorship. But she should have been calling out the people who are losing their mind over this. Instead, she goes and she two sides the thing. All she does, people don't want the fence sitting. Kyle Kulinski is right.